Welcome to Face Forward, the podcast, the series that takes you behind the scenes of the riveting world of clinical trial management. I am your host, Valerie Coveney, and I am thrilled to be your guide on this journey through the nuances of planning, executing, and navigating the clinical research landscape.
Today's guest has extensive experience having worked as a coordinator, CRA, clinical trial manager, and project manager at small CROs. He is currently pursuing his Lean Six Sigma Green Belt certification and has presented at major conferences with over 25 publications, primarily related to paying clinical trials. On this episode, we will share his expertise on improving clinical trial efficiency with CTMS for sponsors, CROs, and sites. We will focus on the following points: centralized data management, process automation, and finally, remote monitoring tools. So let's extend a warm welcome to Robert Taylor, Associate Director, Clinical Operations at Innovaderm. Thank you for being here, Robert.
Oh, thank you for having me, Valerie. It's a pleasure, and I look forward to diving deep into the CTMS.
Excellent. So before we dive into the tips, could you give our listeners a brief overview of how CTMS is transforming clinical trials?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So just in terms of the timeline of technology, CTMS is not new to clinical research. I believe these systems started in the early 2000s, kind of coming after EDC, which I think was in the early 90s. So basically for over 20 years, the CTMS and the platforms have had an opportunity to improve significantly. What we are seeing now is that these much larger CTMS systems have capabilities to do many things, such as pull data from other systems. Just some examples of those systems is just EDC. It has the ability to manage study communication, action items, protocol deviations, and also give you real-time updates to study data. Either through very nice reports or very colorful dashboards. So, the question is like, what's the value in these systems now? Well, pretty much these systems are main things: driving down study costs. They're speeding up trials because now you can open up trials and close trials much faster. It's improving overall study quality and ultimately the regulatory compliance. And it's giving the ability to have greater collaboration among all of the different stakeholders. And it's driving, I would say, stakeholder or user satisfaction. It's at the end of the day, it's creating a work-life balance because you're just having so much more efficiency within managing a trial.
Okay, perfect. So let's get into talking about the first tips here. So what would be the most important feature of CTMS and how can that improve clinical trial efficiency?
Yeah, like I said, the CTMS has tons and tons of features, especially nowadays. But the one thing that is, I think, one of the most important things is that it's basically a central repository for all study-related data. And again, when the system is set up correctly, it's pulling information from all of the different systems that could be used for a study. Again, whether it's EDC, the IWRS, safety, pharmacovigilance systems, risk management, eTMF, all of that stuff now is coming into basically one central platform. And when you have that ability, you have enhanced visibility. You can see everything basically in real time. So that just translates to having better quality again, making faster decisions because you have all of the data available to you. And it just continues to drive costs down.
Definitely. Okay, so moving on to the second tip, what role does process automation play in clinical trials when using a CTMS?
Yeah, another great question. Well, so here at Innovaderm, we have four core values, and actually one of our core values is seeking out innovation. And I think automating our processes is one of those ways that we can be very innovative, because automation itself is not straightforward, and it's not a one size fits all. So, for example, it could be as simple as a notification or a reminder that goes out to the team on an action item or alerting them of study enrollment. Or I think, even the kids are not calling it notifications or reminders, but kids are calling them nudges nowadays. I don't know,
Okay.
just to make it a little bit, I guess, less intimidating, I guess.
Yeah.
But they, notifications, reminders, but they also can be very complex in terms of managing life cycles of action items, going from an open to resolved action item, or protocol deviations where there's about 4 or 5 different steps and 4 or 5 different people that have to review a protocol deviation. So automation can manage all of those individual steps. But ultimately, though, automation, the real goal is to remove or reduce the manual workload of a process. And that in itself, again, just tying it back to improves trial quality, reduces costs, improves timelines, and again, stakeholder satisfaction or the work-life balance.
hmm And could you give us an example of a process that can be automated to improve efficiency?
Yeah, one of the areas of at Innovaderm that we actually continuously look to improve is our monitoring reports process. Prior to moving to the current system, or what we consider a more robust CTMS, our letters and reports, for the most part, were paper-based and had limited functionality in terms of pulling data from the different systems. So the CRAs unfortunately had to spend a lot of time cutting and pasting data from different systems, from Excel sheets, or even from previous letters and reports. So you could imagine, what happens with that in terms of cutting and pasting, quality, compliance, things of that nature aren't perfect. And on top of that, the review cycle, because this was a paper-based type of system, reviewing, placing comments, it was just a very tedious process. And again, you also have issues with not being able to have visibility into cycle times in terms of workflow, because again, everything is paper-based, nothing is tracked within a system. So, we had low user satisfaction because of that type of process. With our current system, and what we really strove to enhance is the flow of data from the system going into our letters and reports. So taking away the cutting and pasting, making sure that the point of truth or the data source is accurate, so that our letters and reports are much more accurate. But the system now allows, or the system is electronic, so we have much more visibility in terms of the review process, the cycle times, and we can now even get down to the level of seeing different metrics at study, country, site levels, and even CRA levels. And what that does is that just allows us to continue to improve our quality, continue to improve our compliance, reduce costs, improve our timelines, ultimately just providing a much better experience for our sponsors, for our sites, and for just our employees.
On to our final point for today. So, what would be the third tip for leveraging CTMS?
Another great question. The industry has been moving to a more risk-based monitoring approach for quite some time, and moving in the direction towards having more remote monitoring. One, from a trial cost perspective, but also remote visits allow for better and more consistent and timely oversight versus waiting for a CRA to get onto a site, which could be anywhere from 4 weeks to 8 weeks, to basically perform a physical visit and to monitor the data. So at that point in time, data would come into the system, and you could be 8 months behind in terms of what's been going on at a site. So remote visits alleviate that problem. And so a well-built CTMS system should allow for that activity to occur. And it's something that at Innovaderm, when we were moving into a more robust CTMS, that our CTMS system could be set up to do these remote monitoring capabilities.
And how can these remote monitoring tools benefit sponsors, CROs, and sites?
Again, it all ties back to just the overall benefits of a CTMS system, such as lowering costs because now you don't have to physically travel to a site to monitor the data. Overall operational costs are coming down. It gives a lot more flexibility to the trial management team, meaning that they can look at so much more data remotely versus having someone go to a physical site. Enhancing data quality because now you have the ability to look at it on a more continuous basis, improving compliance, and then overall really having a good real-time assessment or check on the health of the study or the status of the study.
Amazing. Okay, so this brings an end to our episode today. Thank you so much, Robert, for taking part in this initiative. We were very happy to have you.
It was again a pleasure to be here and to participate. So yeah, thank you.
As we conclude another illuminating episode of Face Forward, we find ourselves at the crossroads of science and progress. Remember that behind the jargon and statistics lie stories of unwavering commitment, meticulous observation, and the pursuit of evidence that shapes our understanding of health and disease. Stay at the forefront of knowledge and innovation and follow Face Forward on your preferred platform. My name is Valerie Kovney. Thank you for joining us. Until next time.